New market, new strategies, pricing makes the big difference today. So stay tuned to this episode of The Den to hear our thoughts and more.
The Den, powered by the Lions Group, a show that explores trending topics in real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. We're a small team of professionals with over $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 successful transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Den. And today we're going to be talking about price strategy. Yes, pricing is a strategy. But before I get to that, let me introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lions Group. To my right, Paul, Hammy the Rockberry, Aspen, the Ninja Gruen, and the boss, Shannon Martinez. My name is Ben Bob Barker Lions.
Price is wrong.
It was a game show, Paul. What?
Yeah, I know.
I know.
I grew up with it. You should be telling her.
Yeah.
I watched it.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, my papa liked it.
Yeah. 801. And then Shannon comes in. 802. Like,
$1.
$1. That was a classic. I mean, The Price is Right was seriously one of the best game shows of all time. But they weren't too far off of strategy in real estate. I mean, the price is right. It has to be right. In order to maximize what you can get as a seller, believe it or not, pricing is a strategy. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that today and kind of go deep on why it's so important to really pay attention to your pricing strategy. So Shannon, I'm coming to you first. You were trying not to look.
I was totally
staring at the
looking
wall.
away. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to shake the cage a little bit.
All right, let's go.
Different market now. Now we did this topic about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. I think it's a totally different market now. And the thing that was a little bit frustrating, probably for some more of the veteran realtors during the time of the 2020, 2021, 2022 was that, man, we had really crafted our art on doing the market analysis and really trying to push and get these really fine-tuned prices. And come that time frame, what happened, Shannon? You could throw...
People will buy anything for any price. During that time, it didn't matter.
Yeah, you could throw any number out there and it didn't matter.
They were going to fight for it until someone reached their top.
Yeah.
It's crazy though. 2020 was 6 years ago. Like,
yeah,
we're so far out of that now, but people do still expect the same thing. Yeah. Sellers do expect the same.
Isn't that wild? That was 6 years ago. Yeah, that is, time flies. But yeah, they do. People are still holding on to that flurry that we had. But
well, did you see the NAR number just came out? It used to be 13 years people moved. Now it's 11. So within the next 5 years, we're going to see all of those COVID purchases for way overpriced, really high prices. Get ready to sell and possibly be in trouble.
I think in most places, pricing has like caught up though. Like if you haven't sold that long, you probably at least are going to break.
Yeah.
Relatively even, I would think. It's the people that were selling it like 3 years later. It was like, oh no.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Or even sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So back to you, Shannon. You're not getting off the hook that easy.
I tried, Shannon. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they were trying. They were trying to distract. Pricing now versus then. Like what are your thoughts? Like how important is it now?
Now it's important. I think then, not that it was ever unimportant, but I think that people were going to basically, the buyers were going to set the price before. Buyers still set the price today, but I do think it's different. I think we have fewer buyers. I think we're a little softer of a market. I think we're shifting to more of a neutral market at this point, which I think all those things in play mean your price does matter. Trying to be aggressive with your price. If you say, I'm just going to price a little bit low and try to get the activity, might be a better option today than it was before, because buyers have a lot of choices right now. We still don't have a ton of inventory on the market, but we have more inventory is growing. We have more inventory than buyers at this point, where we didn't before. And so now you've got to compete. You've got to, maybe buy that home warranty, or you're going to have to pay some closing costs, or you're going to have to price a little bit lower, something a little bit enticing to make the buyers come to you. I feel like that's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Matters more than ever now.
Wasn't it wild, Aspen, when like they would go, hey, that home's been on the market for like a week.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah.
People still feel that way.
Yeah.
There'll be sellers and they're like, it's been 2-3 weeks. I'm like, Yeah, we're like at a 90-day.
Yeah.
We're looking at 3 months, average time on market. So people are still wanting that really quick. I think it was just what they were used to. I remember before, COVID, we were looking at stuff. I mean, we'd go see 10 things that were similar in a day. Now I feel like if we go see, over 5, they're pretty different because we still do need stuff on the market, but you could just look at anything and you could negotiate pretty hard. And you also weren't worried about things being bought before you decided. Things weren't really getting snatched up. Even now, if a good deal comes on the market and it fits what a lot of people are looking for, I'm like, you probably still need to make a decision relatively quickly, because a good deal for a decent house, people are still going to move pretty quickly on it.
Hi, this is Aspen Gruen. I'm a partner at the Lions Group. We're dedicated to making your real estate experience the best it can be. If you're looking to buy or sell, go to sjcbroker.com and watch our informational video series. These videos break down the process and shed some light on buying or selling. While you're there, schedule a private consultation with one of our partners. We'd love to sit down, talk strategy, and give you a real advantage in today's market. You deserve the best, so take those steps, and we'll see you soon. Now back to the show.
Yeah, and that brings me to the next point is, so now we're facing 90 days on the market, right? Average days on the market for a sale. How do you beat the numbers? How do you beat the odds of going a full 90 days and maximize what you can get for your property? Does it behoove you to price a little bit more aggressive and allow that market to push your price point or get your terms right out of the gate versus pricing a little bit higher and working your way down? Paul, what are your thoughts there?
There's a lot there. I think it's twofold. Buyers right now are looking more at monthly payments. So pricing that's going to affect the monthly payment, you're looking at a swing of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to get a significant change in a monthly payment. So I think that part of pricing is difficult to talk to sellers about right now. But I think the biggest thing right now is have your home ready to go on the market. People are putting their homes on the market with all kinds of deficiencies where you walk in, you go, okay, 10 grand off. Do a little bit of work ahead of time and make sure that your house is sellable, because there is a little bit more inventory right now. Buyers have a little bit more options. Make yours the best one on the market. It doesn't have to be the cheapest. We're not saying sell your house for the cheapest. Make it the best one on the market. And if you look at all of your competition, so like when I'm pricing something out, I'll look at what's out there right now too, because I can then gauge. I used to just go by the closed, but now it's what's also out there, because if you have some really nice homes, you've got to up your game.
Yeah, and I've always said that's part of my strategy when I do a CMA. I always say I always take into consideration what the competition is. I never just look at the sales, because that's the past, but you're selling in today's market, and what are you going to be competing with? I think that's a huge part that people overlook. They want to say, but my neighbor sold last year for this. Yeah, but you got 3 neighbors right now selling for this. That matters.
Well, and I think the other thing too is, like we talked about the COVID prices. I mean, 2019, we had 700 homes on the market and nobody wanted to buy anything. Then it flipped overnight where we had no homes on the market and everybody wanted to buy because the prices or the interest rates were so low. Now it's almost switched again where there's still no homes on the market and nobody wants to buy. So we're getting closer to an equilibrium, but now the inventory is getting sold off. We're at 4 months of absorption right now.
Yeah. And 5 to 6 months is equilibrium.
Is neutral.
It's pretty neutral.
We've gone from
2
to like 3, low 3s to 4 in the span of about a month and a half, though. Yeah. So it's moving pretty quickly now. It was inching, and now all of a sudden there's a pretty big swing.
And I don't know how much of that was just the holidays. I know we've had years where holidays really didn't impact selling because the market conditions were just good.
It's also so dry and not here. There's like no snow.
Yeah, so there's things going on that are maybe changing those numbers more than and that may turn around. Those are the what ifs that if we had a crystal ball would be nice.
We talked about it a couple of episodes ago, is the interest rates are slowly trickling down and they're continuously trickling down. So I think people are waiting for it to to hit a number they're
I
looking
definitely
for.
think people are waiting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people waiting on the sidelines. There's not as many buyers right now, but there's a lot of people that want to buy. They're just waiting.
Well, and to your point, Paul, like if you're trying to talk a seller down $30,000 or $40,000, that's a lot harder argument versus if the interest rate came down 0.5%. Right.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden that buyer can afford, because they're going back to that monthly payment, then that buyer can afford that property without the seller having to reduce their price. So you have some stalls on both sides. And just to circle back to the inventory we were talking about, just for our audience, when we talk about how much inventory is left on the market, we talk about absorption rates. And basically the assumption is if we were to not take any more new listings on the market, so no new listings, how many months worth of inventory do we have based on what our average sales are? So if you have 100 homes on the market and you don't take any new ones and 25 of them sell on average, then we have about 4 months worth of inventory. And so for you in the audience, you can say, okay, if we have about 4 months worth of inventory, it's still kind of a seller's market. But once you have 5 or 6 months worth of inventory, or heaven forbid, 9 or 10 months worth of inventory, now all of a sudden you're tipping to a seller's market, significantly in a seller's market. Significantly in the buyer's market. I spoke the opposite. Significantly in the buyer's market when you have all kinds of inventory out there, because the buyers have choices, right? So sellers have to come down off of their prices. That's when you get to 9 and 10 months inventory, which we had for many years in this area. We had a lot of inventory and not enough buyers. And so to full circle back around, we have about 4 months of inventory right now, and that still shows the sign of a seller's market, but is getting closer to a buyer's market. So I wanted to just explain that a little bit. Let's just use a real world example. Aspen, I'm coming to you on this. If we're using $300,000, a $300,000 home, right? And the seller's like, well, I really want to try $325,000. And you as a professional are going, I know it's going to sell right about $300,000. How do you explain to a seller that it makes more sense for them to sell at $300,000 versus trying at $325,000 to see what the market does?
So if I was looking at, a $300,000 home in town, 3-bed, 2-bath, kind of what a lot of people are looking for, I would recommend pricing it appropriately to get the most people in, because the sooner you can get an offer, the higher the offer is going to be. If we wait and let it sit and, maybe 310, 315, I would really like to get at that 299 mark in that case, but most people don't love that. If it's a little bit higher, okay, but I would just explain to them it really would benefit us, because if we get right underneath that 300 mark, you're having so many more people look at your house who can afford 300. And maybe if we get a few offers, maybe we can get it to that 310, 315, versus if we're coming in listing it at 325, maybe we'll get 300. So I just like to explain things pretty clearly to people, because ultimately it's their house and they can do what they want. It's our job to give the information and let them decide. But I have no problem saying, okay, I think it's going to sell for about this mark. Now, where I'm at now, I feel pretty comfortable telling that to people, because I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I want to promise and deliver. I don't want to underpromise either. I want to just tell people what I think it's going to be. So I would just have a really honest conversation. And if they want to list it at 325, I'd probably still take that listing. But if they wanted to come in and list it at 425, I would probably decline the listing.
No. Yeah, even 350 or 375.
Yeah, I would probably say I probably wouldn't take them.
Maybe I'm not the right realtor for you, but Shannon, is there a danger for someone pricing at 325? Do you think they could get lower than 3?
Yeah,
Could
I think
it work
so.
against them?
I think so, because
Explain that a little
when
bit.
we're talking about people looking at it and saying it's been on the market for 3 weeks, what's wrong with it? That's what you start getting. So the seller starts coming down, and then they start saying they've done a lot of price reductions and what's wrong with that. And by the time that it is, they're doing exactly what you're saying. They're looking at it going, this has been on the market a couple of months. Even though they started at 325, now they're at 300, now they're appropriate. Now that person's coming in going, well, you've lowered the price and you've had it on the market for 2 months now. So I feel good about coming in under your asking price. So now they're going to be in there going, well, we'll offer the 280.
Mm-hmm.
And see where we can end up at. And so it is a lot of mind psychology with people. And like you're saying, if you start off at a good price, get the most people in the door and the most people interested and the most people bidding on it, that's your best shot at getting the price that you want or the highest price that you're going to get, as opposed to people coming in feeling like they've got the upper hand in the negotiation because you've been waiting.
I think if you have a typical house that is what most people are looking for, what most people can afford, the vast majority, you could price it at $5 and it's still going to get somewhere in the market value that it is.
Correct. The buyers are going to bring it there.
Yep. But if it's a really high price listing, a luxury home in your area, if it's a farm and ranch, if it's commercial, there are other things that the pricing does become more important because you want to stay around that price range and it's going to take longer to sell. You don't want to come in too low because it's harder to bump the price up for those kind of things. It will still probably bump up a little bit, but might not be where you wanted it to be. But an average home, I think kind of no matter where you list it at on the low side, most of the time, majority of the time, I think it'll bump up.
And the truth is if the buyers don't run that price up for you, you most likely weren't going to get that. I mean, you
exactly.
weren't.
It's going to be, I think it's going to be in the market value realm for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be your best shot at getting the best price you're going to get.
Yeah, and thank you for delineating with that because if you are a high-end luxury property or a very unique property, a 30-acre irrigated with a farm out, ways away from town, it's going to take a special buyer. Should you have a cushion for pricing in that regard? Yeah, probably, because you don't know where the demand is. The demand is very specialized in that instance. But if you are in the run of the mill homes and you're within a price point that moves, if the property is priced right, it certainly behooves you to price appropriately because like you said, even if they priced, and I have experience in this, we went and did an auction for a home that it was an absolute auction. So if the highest bidder was at $200,000, and this was about $1 million property, the highest bidder was at $200,000, the seller was obligated to sell. Now, when I first did the market analysis, I told them they were probably going to be in the mid nines. I just said, I think you're going to be in the mid nines on this. And we started a lot higher. We started at 1.25, I think at the time. And it was one of those specialty listings. What did we end up doing? We ended up taking it to auction, and the seller, it was actually the seller's idea to do this, and the buyer swooped in, and guess where it sold? It sold $980,000, which was pretty incredible. So it does demonstrate the fact that if you priced it at even at $5, it would bid up to a $300,000 house. And there'd be some excitement there. There'd be some motivation from the buyers, and they get hooked into that. And they're more excited to buy your property than versus you reducing your price from $325 down to $300 and then saying, well, now you're going to pay my closing costs too. I want you to pay my closing. Now I'm not as excited to win this, win this property. So the psychology certainly plays in. Do you experience that too, Paul? The psychology of the excitement of buyers when it first hits the market, if they can get in, it usually keeps them in.
Yes.
Good answer. I like that.
I was thinking of a whole different thing. I was thinking, in pricing, we're supposedly the pros and the experts. We all have stories where we got it wrong or we price it appropriately and it still doesn't sell. So I think this is, over the years, I've started to ask a lot of the other questions that we don't necessarily think of when you're selling a house. What are your pressures? Why are you selling? What other bills are you trying to pay off? Do we have to do this quickly? Can you wait a while? Is it paid off? Can you do whatever you want to do without selling this property? Because those, I think, all play a huge factor in somebody accepting the price that you're presenting. I think a lot of times that is more important than what it'll actually get on the market. Making them,
interesting.
In my mind, making them feel like everything that they're looking at that point in time has been considered, and this price can help them do that.
Mm-hmm. So it's reflective of where they're at as a seller in their.
I've been trying this out. I have some that have worked great. I have some that haven't. I mean, I don't know that it is the answer, but I have found that most people appreciate that quite a bit more than saying, Here it is, black and
Yeah,
white.
black and white. So what you're saying is you're coupling all of the wants, needs, motivations of a seller, and then trying to pair it with the market conditions.
Yeah, because too, then you have some answers like, okay, what's the next step? Well, fix your roof. You want this to all work. You got to do some work ahead of time, because you have to get that price. So to make that price, to make all of this work, you've got to go and maybe, change out the water heater, fix the roof, change those windows out, or price it a little lower and we can sell it quickly so you meet all of your goals here.
Yeah, and let someone else build in the equity.
Yeah,
right. Because if you price it lower, if a repair is going to cost $5,000, then you need to almost go $7,500 or $10,000 under because someone else is going to have to manage that part of the the improvement to the home, and they should be entitled to that equity bump, right? So,
well, and two, go back to the buyers.
Yep.
Buyers are going to these homes and going, these prices are all inflated. We jumped up 1 year 26% over 1 year. So that's huge for this area. So people are going into homes right now and going, for this, I'm getting, vinyl flooring that's horrible. I'm getting all
they
of these
definitely
repairs I
expect
need.
more with the prices they're looking at today.
Yeah.
I mean, I do
agree.
too. Every time, sometimes I walk into houses and I'm like, no. And then it sells. I mean, it's going to be demand, but sometimes I feel the same way. I'm like, I don't know if this is worth this.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously it's worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it.
Right.
And just because it's not my ideal situation doesn't mean it's not somebody else's ideal situation.
Yeah.
I think I've told this story before. I had these clients that I was working with and we were looking at different manufactured homes. There was a lot to choose from. They were coming in with cash so they could really kind of get what they wanted. And they were specific about wanting a manufactured home with land. That's what they wanted. That's what they knew how to maintain. And so that's what we were looking for. There was 3 top contenders. Two of them were pretty similar, but one was pretty rough. It didn't have like the septic updated. The other one also pretty rough. And these weren't cheap ones either. And then we were looking at one that was nice. I mean, it was all completely, lifted. It was wrapped. It had beautiful landscaping. It was just, and they hated that one. They were like, this is not what we're looking for at all. We want our kids to play and, not worry about, keeping it all nice. And that's what they wanted. And you know what? I think it was really eye-opening for me to be like, okay, just because what I want is not what someone else's ideal situation is. They don't want to worry about all that stuff. They just want to enjoy the life that they're living. And it was a good experience for me to have, for them to be like, it made me kind of check what I was saying to people whenever I was walking in to different houses. This was at the very, very beginning of real estate, but
Yeah, because you really do have to separate yourself and try to guide them into maybe what the best decision is, but it's their best decision.
Yep.
Yeah. And sometimes it is hard. Sometimes it is hard to do that because you look at it and think, this is a way better deal over here.
Yeah.
Well,
And for them, the septic
for
not being
them.
updated was not an issue because they knew how to update it. They knew how to do all that stuff.
Right.
So that wasn't
wasn't
even
a
a
worry.
concern for them.
Right.
Yeah. And when it comes to actually pricing a property, I think that the clients that we work with understand that we're coming from a position of, look, we want to be transparent with you. Like if we give you false hope, you're making life decisions on these things that we're telling you. And I think you said it earlier is we want to underpromise and overperform versus the other way around. And so it's not a ding against a seller if we're coming in lower than their expectations. One of the things we have to do is just understand their expectations. I always ask, look, what is your expectation of pricing here? Because I want to understand how to frame
Yep,
the
I
next
always ask first.
conversation.
I asked
I asked.
It doesn't change my number,
Yeah.
but I always ask first.
Yeah, they have to give me their number first.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, good. Because then it's all about perception at that point. And you have to keep in mind, if you are a seller, we're not trying to beat you down. We're trying to get you to come to realization of where the market is, right? Because if you understand where the market is, then you can maximize what you can get for your property. And then you get people excited about your home. They're coming in. And if you think about the whole emotional side of things where you have a buyer that's excited, you sell your property quickly. What a wonderful thing. The drawback is a seller going, did I price it a little too low? Right. So the other side of that is They price it too high at the 325. Weeks go by. They get frustrated. You're frustrated as a realtor. You're spending a lot of money and time trying to market the property. They end up reducing the price, which they think they're leaving money on the table now, when in reality, they're not. They're just getting closer to being in line. So
the money was never on the table.
It was never on the table. It was blue
But
sky.
how many times do they negotiate with that money in mind?
Yeah, exactly.
Drives me.
And especially whenever it's
Crazy.
we just reduced the price. We've already lost this money. It's no, you haven't lost that money. That money was never there.
Yeah.
It's imaginary, but that is hard. It's a hard pill to swallow for sure.
So you have those two things. I mean, you overprice, so you deal with all of that emotional strain on both sides, or you price correctly, and it's just seamless. It's more of a seamless process.
I'm sure we've all had this experience too, where you go to a listing appointment and a seller will say, well, this realtor told me they could sell it for this. And it's an exorbitant number. And I do think some realtors come in saying that they can sell it for higher to get the listing. I don't think many do, but I do think some do. And I always just say, if they can sell it for that, then you should sell it with them, because I don't think I can get that. And that I do feel that way. If that person truly does have a buyer and they really do think that they can sell it for that much, and I don't think I can, then I have no problem saying I can't sell it for that.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not that it's not worth it for me to try. It's just that I know whenever I can say I can't do that.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing to learn. And I will tell you, I've never lost a listing because of that.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's just one of those things that you have a lot of stuff in play, like you said, finding out what the motivations are of the seller, finding out, what their situation is and the needs and wants, and then pairing that with market conditions. Now you can create a strategy. And that's what we do really well is we take the wants and needs of a client, we look at the current market, and now we can figure out how do we gap that, right? How do we create the strategy, build the strategy to make it a successful transaction? Because ultimately that's the goal, is to get you to the next chapter, to help create a strategy that's a winning strategy for you in any market. And I really am proud of the fact that we keep that forefront. I
think our team is very good about pricing. I think we price appropriately and fairly, and our clients obviously have big hands in that. We don't have stuff, aside from the random commercial or land, that those things always take longer. We really don't have things just sitting. We're actively working on our listings all the time until they're sold, until we find that sweet spot. We're not just throwing stuff up to see what sticks.
One last question in that regard, because sometimes we do miss. Let's say I do a market analysis and really truly the market's at 300, but my numbers come in at 310 or 315. What is one of the things that you should do as a seller and as a realtor if you do end up pricing at the 325 and you're recognizing that you're not getting the activity? Is it better to wait it out or make moves quickly? What are your thoughts?
I think it depends. I think it depends on what the market is. If it's holidays, maybe you should wait a little bit. If it's really bad weather and access to your house is hard, maybe you should wait a little bit. It really is case by case. And that's why it's hard to say these generalizations, because no listing is the same. So I think it would depend on a lot of different things.
Yeah, I've had properties that I think are completely appropriately priced. A price reduction is not going to change certain conditions that you're working with.
Yeah.
So why take that off the table for your seller, hoping for a quicker sale when you understand that it's just, like you said, it's road conditions and people aren't looking right now, or it's holidays. Look at all the aspects of it, I think.
Before making that quick reduction.
Yeah.
Paul, do you concur with that?
Yes.
All right, good
Well,
answer.
I think too, I know we're out of time, but I think one of the things that I do is, like, if I know we're priced high, I'm going to wait till the right time to get that first price reduction to get eyes back on it. And, we need to be down, but I'm not one to push them every 2 weeks for another reduction, because it just seems like I'm just looking for the check. Mm-hmm. We've got to make sure that they're comfortable with where they're at as well.
Yep. Understood. Fair enough. Well, there you have it. Pricing is a strategy, and it's a tool that you should be using as a homeowner if you're going to sell your property. And of course, listen to the counsel that you're realtor is going to give you, the guidance that your realtor is going to give you in the market. Because again, if you pair your wants and needs with the current market conditions, that's where the realtor can help build the strategy that's going to bridge that gap. And we take a lot of pride in taking the time to do that. We just don't throw things up on the board and hope they come together. And a true professional, whether you're working with Alliance Group or not, will do the same for you. So look for their guidance, ask those questions, and ultimately it's your decision as a homeowner, where you land on pricing, but understand the differences and the things that it could cost you if you go too high on the pricing. So use pricing as a leverage, a strategy to your favor. So hope you gained some insight from this conversation, and we appreciate you listening to this episode of The Den. We've had a great run this time. We were kicking 2026 off right, and we're excited to see how this year goes. So if you like our content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, go to our Facebook page. But most important, if you are thinking about making a move in real estate, go to sjcbroker.com and schedule a private consultation with any one of us here at the Lions Group. We'd love to sit down with you one-on-one and give you an advantage in today's market. So thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lions Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed and check the show notes below for direct links to our buyer and seller video series. The buyer and seller video series can give you an inside track on taking the right steps in real estate. If you'd like to learn more about the Lions Group or to schedule a consultation, go to sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lions Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in The Den.